Well, good morning, everyone. April Marie here. My final day filling in for Andrew. So good to be here. How was your weekend, Steve? I guess you've already probably done that question, but I'm asking it anyway.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Just kind of repeat what I talked about with, what was that, about 40 minutes ago or so? Steve's turn. Yeah, I went hunting
Oh, nice.
inadvertently over the weekend. Got an 8-point buck.
How does one inadvertently go? We're using your vehicle?
Yes.
Oh,
Nailed it with my dad's old 1989 Ford F-250, which
Wow.
you're familiar with,
Yeah.
because you've got an older truck like that as well. This
Yeah.
thing, 8-point buck,
That's wild.
I thought probably about 100 pounds. I've been told probably more around 150.
Oh, wow.
That truck just shrugged it off.
Yeah. Difference between old vehicles and new vehicles.
I mean, nailed it with the front corner on the driver's side. Looked at the bumper. There's a stain basically where the deer hit.
Yeah.
And I rolled over it with the front wheel and it
Ooh.
hit the running board, which
Okay.
is an aftermarket running board.
Right.
It's not like it came with the truck. It was an aftermarket running board. It's got a slight dent in it where it kind of matches the wheel well on
Okay.
the back of the front wheel. It's kind of squared off a little bit. That's it.
No
Otherwise,
real damage done.
nothing.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
Didn't work out very well for the deer.
No, deer dead,
Deer dead.
but
Okay.
salvageable.
I once had a deer hit me, and I was driving a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Do you remember those?
I do.
You want to talk about vehicles that are made well? That's the complete opposite.
Yeah,
if you
that-
threw a quarter at this
Yeah.
thing, and hit it in the right place, it was coming apart.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, I got the vehicle that I drive on a daily basis sitting down there in the parking lot, not far from where you parked. If
Oh.
I'd hit that deer with that,
Yeah.
it's an easy $4,500 to $5,000 in damage if they don't total the vehicle because it might have popped an airbag.
Right. Oh, scary. JD wants to know if you kept the deer because he's volunteering
Absolutely.
he's volunteering to help you process it.
Oh, it's already been done.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, it's already
Venison
been
for-
salvaged, field dressed. They got the meat all taken out,
Nice.
and they're working on it right now.
So venison for everybody.
Yeah,
That's what you're telling me.
some
Okay.
steaks and maybe a little bit of sausage, and yeah, we're gonna be good to go.
There you go. All right. Well, that was a much more eventful weekend.
But I
than mine.
appreciate that, JD. Thank you for the offer.
That's a much more eventful. I had my daughter's 13th birthday, and we did a combination of things. I don't know how in case anybody's curious, God blessed me so much. And I'm going to knock on wood for the next 20 minutes, but I just have good kids. And so we watched oh gosh. And have you seen all the Marvel movies? I know you're a big movie person.
Pretty much all of them, yeah.
So we watched the Endgame and the one before it that are
Infinity
both
War.
Infinity War
Okay,
and
yeah,
Endgame.
you watched the two biggest ones.
And
yeah.
so for some reason we had watched the first one, the Infinity War, but never watched Endgame, and then skipped
Oh, well,
right
you got to finish the story.
and then skipped right ahead to the Spider-Man, where you kind of get the spoiler
You get
alert,
the
like you go
aftermath,
right into the spoiler. So we decided we were going to watch the whole thing, but then somehow we forgot how long they were.
Oh, yeah, they're not short.
They're really like this makes
And
Titanic look
Endgame
short.
Endgame was quite lengthy.
It was wild. And so we watched one Friday night, one Saturday night, and then yesterday was kind of a free for all. But we did the whole cake and the candles. We went to Bucky's
Nice.
and went bowling.
Well,
It was a classic redneck birthday
sure.
weekend.
Bucky's to bowling. I like it.
Okay, but before we went to Bucky's, so I had been looking for a lawn care company, somebody to come. My daughter's been mowing the lawn. I was looking for a lawn care company to come and help me kind of just get the bushes. I had these overgrown hedges. They were absurd. But when I brought stuff back from my dad's house, I kept a lot of his lawn care equipment. So I
Okay.
had all the stuff I needed, it's not a chainsaw, but a little chainsaw looking thing. And then it's like a smaller version of a chainsaw.
It's really more like a limb cutter. It's probably what
Yeah,
that is.
so we have that. We had we had hedgers. We had all these things that I didn't know how to use, but we used them this weekend. And the lawn care company, which was really nice, I got a quote from a guy. It was off the charts, way out of my budget,
I
just
can
to
understand
get
that.
the yard caught up. And so somehow we end up saying, okay, we're going to do this. So we raked leaves, although we didn't get the whole yard. We raked leaves, we cut branches. Nobody lost a limb, which was really impressive.
That's good.
One of the two devices had like a safety on it. The little baby chainsaw did not.
Okay.
And so that was dangerous, me with that thing. But no, got one set completely knocked out, which was great. And then have two more three more bushes, two more, one where the two hedges have grown together.
Oh, okay.
So we have to clear that out so that you can
So
tell
yeah.
they're two
So
separate.
for like a pass through or what?
Yeah, it's where my house is. The previous owner made muscadine wine, and so there's like a little shed looking thing, but it's made of brick. It's gorgeous, or stone, I guess. And so we got to cut that, and then there's one more. But yeah, we made a lot of progress this weekend. It was definitely a like productive birthday weekend, and my daughter really enjoyed herself, or so she told us. And family coming in from different states, so that was a good time. Well, a lot going on in the news. I was trying not to get down by following the news, but we are absolutely going to get into this mob storming the church because that is offensive in a million different ways. There's a video out of a man. He says he's on patrol with a firearm, and to which I have what's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but if you know me, it's going to track right along with what I who I am and what I believe, which is I like to see people exercising their First and Second Amendment rights. I do not get all up in arm if a lefty has a firearm, okay? Because I want lefties to have firearm. I want them to understand what it feels like to be able to defend themselves. Now, the minute this man uses that firearm and committing a crime, he is menacing towards it. He threatens somebody. He does something beyond protect what the law allows him to protect. Then we've got a problem. But people on the right were screaming their head off. Oh, he's got a gun, and he was out there with anti-ICE protesters. By the way, there are laws in some states that say you can't have a firearm at a protest, but this guy was in his neighborhood, I believe, on his own property. And then invited kind of a rally there. I don't know where the law stands with that. But I like leftists with guns. I don't inherently think, and that's because I think differently than the leftists do, I don't inherently think firearm equals crime. I know way too many people who exercise their Second Amendment rights to say that and to go there. So we're going to talk about that. First thing this morning, after this first segment, we're going to have on Dr. Alan Mendenhall. He's got an op-ed in 1819 News about the American Bar Association and Alabama's affiliation with the American Bar Association. So if you are a lawyer, have an aspiring lawyer in your family, any of those things, it's interesting to know what they're doing. And then I ran two stories today on 1819 News this morning. One of them, can I just give my absolute love, love, love? State Representative Susan DuBose did an interview on Right Side Radio where she talked about the AEA and the impact that and it hadn't even considered it. And I've have no love for the AEA, but she was talking about how their constant message of teachers being underpaid in Alabama hurts teacher recruitment. And it makes so much sense when you say it that way, right? Like if they're on all day, every day, teachers are underpaid, teachers are undervalued, teachers are da 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 da. Then somebody who's looking for a profession, something to study in college, they don't want to study teaching. Or those who are going through school, they're looking at the job markets and all they see and hear is AEA saying how terrible teachers are getting paid in this state. They don't want to stay in the state. They get their degree and go somewhere else where teachers aren't being underpaid. Well, Representative DuBose goes into that's just not true. They're coming straight out of college. Our teachers are being paid the same as other professions, new people coming out of college. And so she talked about the recklessness of that. AEA, in the meantime, going off against Governor Ivey only, I put this in air quotes, saying she's going to do a 2% pay increase across the board for teachers. And so they're mad about that. We'll get into this talk about the bar association. We'll kind of segue right into this teachers unions. We'll talk about what's happening with these ICE protests, all sorts of things going on in the news. So keep an open mind for that. Keep your radios on. We're going to take a quick break here in just a second, and when we come back, we'll get into all those top headlines. There was a few other things I wanted to get into. Oh, okay. I don't know how I didn't have this written right at the top of my list, but President Donald Trump endorsing Barry Moore for U.S. Senate, that's a big one, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. You guys hold tight. April Marie filling in for Andrew, back in a second. Well, good morning, everyone. April Marie here, filling in for Andrew. This is my last day. I'm not prepared to say goodbye. I'm wondering if I could stage a coup and make him stay on vacation a little bit longer. Could I ask John Bird to do something John Birdie to the car to make the road trip go a day longer? Steve's laughing. Wonder if that's a possibility. Slip him a 20. Be like, and this is what I need from you. Go put some diesel in Andrew's car and just leave him. Get an extra day in Florida. I kid. I kid. I guess I'm ready for him to come back. On the line now, I've got Alan Mendenhall, who is he's a doctor, but he doesn't go by doctor. He's not one of those. Well, not one of those insist upon it. He is a senior advisor for the Capital Markets Initiative and a research fellow in the Thomas A. Rowe Institute for Economic Policy Studies at the Heritage Foundation, which is a really fancy way of saying he's a smart dude working with smart people. Hi there, Alan.
Hey, April, how are you?
I'm doing well this morning. Your little bio here is quite the mouthful. Can we just say?
Sorry about that. I didn't pick it.
Well, I love everything about the Heritage Foundation. Great group of individuals there, and I know you're doing great work with them. So you've got an op-ed today in 1819 News about, and the title is Alabama should rethink the ABA accreditation for law schools. Tell me a little bit about this. Why do you believe this?
Well, first of all, the ABA has become basically a left-wing propaganda outlet. It nominally regulates the legal profession, but actually every state, all 50 states, have the power to regulate who becomes a lawyer in the state. And that is typically the purview of the state Supreme Court. So it is in Alabama. It is in every state that I know of. If there's a state where it's not the state Supreme Court, then I don't know what it is. But the state Supreme Court can decide who can sit for a bar exam in that state. So in theory, a state Supreme Court could say, hey, we're not going to require somebody to graduate from law school if they want to sit for the bar. Now, that's unlikely to happen. But as it happens now, every state basically says, okay, we're going to require graduates of ABA. We're going to require for people to sit for the bar, they have to graduate from an ABA accredited law school. And then each state carves out individual exceptions. Like in our state, we have an exception for Birmingham School of Law and for Miles Law School. If you graduate from one of those two schools, which are not accredited by the ABA, because they're in our state, you can still sit for the bar. Well, this accreditation function really gives the ABA a ton of power.
Yeah.
It's where it gets most of its power. And it's just a horrible thing. So Texas and Florida, last week Florida, the week before that Texas, announced that they're no longer going to rely on the ABA for accreditation. Their Supreme Court said, you know what, we're sophisticated enough ourselves to figure out which law schools are good enough to have their graduates sit for the bar. So we're not going to rely on the ABA. We're going to reduce our dependence. Now, that may not seem like a huge deal on its face, but when you think about it, that means that the law schools in the state no longer have to worry about the ABA coming all the way down to their state, scrutinizing their faculty, doing interviews with administration, going through all the paperwork. Like, all that's done for the law schools in Texas and Florida. They don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. And a lot of what that would do would involve ideological gatekeeping. The ABA would come in and, they couldn't say, oh, we're coming in here to make sure your faculty are left wing, but they could use their biases in ways that are, tough to detect, tough to trace, to enforce that sort of ideological gatekeeping. So this is great news that Texas and Florida have done it. Red state Alabama ought to be next on the list.
Absolutely.
For some reason, we always lag behind these other red states. We're never the leader, and I'm not sure why that is.
Kay Ivey,
Yeah.
soft legislature. That's what it is. We have a bunch of individuals who run as really, really tough conservatives. Then they get to Montgomery and become moderate squishes. And they don't do the bills that we need for them to do, like this. I'm on the American Bar Association's website. There's a fourth tab over is on diversity. First link on there, DEI. And it's all of what you would expect to see in, there's literally, it's DEI, then you scroll the list, gender identity. They have a whole commission on sexual orientation and gender ideology. Yeah, because this is really important when somebody needs a defense attorney or somebody needs a will drawn up. It's really important that they have that or sexual orientation and gender ideology message in there.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is the irony is that the ABA's origins were to prevent poor people and black people from joining the bar. That's what it was started to do. Its function, they may champion, inclusion and diversity, but literally it was created to be exclusive and to prevent diversity, like in its early years. And for like 66 years, it prevented black people from even becoming members. And in 1912, it discovered that 3 African Americans had been admitted to the bar by accident, and then they expelled those
Wow.
members after they found out. So it's just now I think the ABA, to try to like atone for its past sins, has gone over the top on wokeness and just really pushing massively left wing stuff. You mentioned the rule. What was it? It's 8.4, I think, that deals with discrimination. Yeah, it's 8.4, and that provision is vague. It's overbroad. It can penalize lawyers for voicing their own personal opinions about, for example, same-sex marriage or transgender bathrooms. So if you're a lawyer like I am, and I'm doing what I'm doing right now and saying we shouldn't let men use women's bathrooms, or I don't think that same-sex marriage is in fact by definition marriage, those two things that I just uttered could potentially get me in trouble with a bar. Now, it happens that our state has not actually adopted 8.4, thank goodness, but in the states that have, the comments I just made could have me disciplined by a state bar.
Yeah, that which is really wild to think about. You look at these national organizations and as a whole, many of them are the same corrupt with wokeness, DEI, gender ideology, and truly, its simplest form, anti-conservative. And so, why we
Exactly.
have conservatives, we see that with the NEA and the AEA. The AEA will say, "Oh, we're more conservative," and you're like, "But you're members of the NEA, right? Like you realize what they're out there doing, promoting all of this insanity." And so we understand that on an education level. It's important to understand it on the lawyers and the bar association level. So your recommendation is that we adopt the same framework that Florida and Texas has just adopted.
Yeah, and this should be really easy to do. We have 9 Republicans on the Alabama Supreme Court,
Yeah,
and all they have to do is get together, draft the rule, promulgate it, and it's done. It doesn't require all the rigmarole that legislation does, where you have to get the bill and you have to get the votes and you have to do this and everyone's running to each other's office to try to. It doesn't require any of that. It just requires 9 justices who are all conservative to get together and promulgate the rule. Very, very, very simple. And the fact that it hasn't been done to me is surprising. I know that there was a time when Chief Justice Parker was talking about it, and of course he's no longer on the court, and Jay Mitchell's no longer on the court, and I think he had been talking about it. He was very critical of the newest iteration of the bar examination, and when they were on the court, I had a lot of confidence that maybe something would happen, but who knows? With Texas and Florida taking the lead, it wouldn't surprise me if some other red states started following suit. And of course, Alabama will come from behind and eventually do what the other red states are doing. I'm getting really tired of Alabama not leading on any of these issues.
absolutely.
You were talking about the sort of the squishiness earlier. I also think there's a French term. I have a friend in the European Parliament, and she's French, and she taught me this term culpabilité, and it's like this paralyzing shame.
Hmm.
And I think that the Alabama political class has internalized this reflexive fear of being accused of regression. It's like every serious reform is filtered through a
How,
fear of national disapproval.
yeah.
And
How
so
will
we're
JD
paralyzed.
Crow at AL.com depict me with a KKK hood on today if I do this legislation? And by the way, that's inevitable. If we do anything good in this state, is absolutely inevitable that AL.com will pile on, that SPLC will pile on, that the liberal woke, we got editorials coming out about Alabama Reflector, you name it, that you're going to be called names, they're going to make accusations, and it's ridiculous. We really have to get over that. I know that that was probably one of the best things in my life to happen to me was going on a radio show, for a couple years. Is it's like, okay, call me the names, and I'm going to tell you the truth anyway, right? We
Yeah,
know what's
and
right and wrong,
most of those people are ignorant yahoos anyway. I mean, who is
right?
JD Crow? Like, who cares what he thinks? Like, he's an ignorant yahoo. No one should care.
Absolutely. And we really do. We have too many lawmakers who care about the wrong things. Well, we've got a little bit of time left. I told you I wanted to keep you over for two segments. I want to switch a little bit to were on Alabama's textbook, one of the Alabama State Board of Education textbook reviews. When we come back from this break, would you mind talking about that a little bit in your op-ed there?
I would be very happy to do so.
All right, we're going to take a break. I've got Dr. Alan Mendenhall on the line. He is a Heritage Foundation Fellow, lives right here in Alabama. We'll be right back with him in just a minute. You're listening to The Line with April Marie. Well, good morning, everyone. April Marie here, filling in for Andrew today. Great to be back The phone lines are open 545-9950. We are talking to Dr. Alan Mendenhall. I use the doctor. He doesn't necessarily insist upon that, but I think it helps. Uh, Alan, so I've got open here a op-ed you wrote for 1819 News called that titled "My Year Inside Alabama's Textbook Machine." Now, you were an appointee to the textbook committee. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in August of 2024, I was at the Claremont Institute in California for like 10 or 11 days. And while I was there, I was reviewing the social studies curriculum and evaluating it, providing all this feedback. It took me a ton of time. I spent basically all my spare time while I was there working on this and submitted my evaluation to the governor's office, and a lot of people really liked it. And you know, I shared it with Senator Sessions, with Jeff Sessions, and with several other people who were also very interested in what was going on in this curriculum. Well, fast forward a little bit, and I find out from the governor's office that she's going to actually appoint me to the textbook committee. It's a
Awesome.
different entity, and she's going to appoint me to the state textbook committee. As essentially, I guess they thought I did such a good job providing unsolicited feedback, by the way, on the curriculum, that they would add me to the textbook committee. So I get added to that, and I spend a lot of time reading economics textbooks. That's what they gave me to read, is economics textbooks. So I went through them and, went to the Gordon Persons Building in Montgomery and had to do stuff there. And eventually I finished up all the stuff that I had to do. I can't remember if this was like May or June. I think it was June when I submitted all my evaluations, and I thought I was done, and it was great. Well, then in July, I started the first of a series of articles
Yep.
criticizing Regions Bank. 3 days after the very first piece, I get a letter, or letters written from the governor. I didn't get the letter 3 days later. She wrote the letter 3 days after, removing me from the textbook committee and providing no reason whatsoever. Now, she mailed that letter to Troy University, which is where I was previously employed. So it took a month to get to me because she mailed it to the wrong place. But by the time I got it, I was like, this is so ridiculous. I got removed from the committee after I've already done all the work. This wasn't like a titular assignment. I actually had to do a ton of work. I had to read all these textbooks. And so it was a big slap in the face.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's very hard to imagine it had anything to do with anything except your op-eds critical of Regions Bank, and they were doing ESG, right?
Well, Regions has done a lot of stuff, but what I was criticizing for is all kinds of things related to their LGBTQ promotion, their DEI maneuvers. They had been doing a lot of ESG, but their most recent annual report was restyled a shared values report rather than an ESG report. But interestingly enough, there's a group called Inspire Investing that was doing some engagement with Regions because it's a shareholder, and a group called 1792 Exchange, which evaluates corporations based on, we'll just by shorthand call it wokeness, and they were criticizing Regions for being very, very woke. And then I started writing articles. Well, guess what Regions did? It removed its 2024 shared values report from the internet,
You know what?
changed stuff in it, and then put it back up on the website.
So, you know who did that to me? Samford did that to me. It was actually very entertaining. And of course, I had downloaded the original, I had screen capped it, I had gone to the Wayback Machine and threw the link in so that they would have it. Which, by the way, if you don't know this, people, you can go to what's called the Wayback Machine. It's the Internet Archive, and if they don't have a website archived, it'll do it in real time. So that if someone's if you're gonna report on something, you're gonna tell on something, you're gonna write a letter, go get it screen captured so that you have that original before they do it. Because if I had $1 I could be in Starbucks for a year. The amount of times I've called somebody and said, what about this thing on your website? And then it disappears from the website, or as in your case, gets edited away.
Yep, and their tweets were removed, and I had already screenshotted those. And interestingly enough, I have a gigantic stack of papers on my dining room table right now. I'm in D.C. at the moment, but in my dining room table in Alabama, that is just stuff that anonymous people have mailed
Oh
to
yeah.
me from regions. Just, and I haven't written about any of it, but they date all the way back to 2014. My assumption is that they're employees that are sending these to me. I don't know, but I'm still trying to figure
The
out what, if
call is
anything, I'm
coming
going to
from
do with it.
inside the house. I tell the universities this all the time. It's not like I have to dig far or ask or spend a whole lot of time. Although I did find a new website where I can go look at what teachers are assigning at the different colleges, and not just in Alabama, but around the country. So I've been sifting through those on my own. But more often than not, once I write one story, then people inside are like, "Oh, you think that's bad? Check this," and they'll send me more stuff, and it happens more. That happens so often. So I'm glad it's happening. All of these entities that went over to the crazy woke side, it's time for them to come back. And I think sanity will prevail because the left has just pushed things so far in the wrong directions, and everybody's willing to say, okay, that was the wrong direction.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. It's like, this isn't really about like, you know, getting at regions or it's actually trying to improve regions. It's trying to make it a better company than it already is. A firm that focuses on its core business purpose and not on ideological trends that have nothing to do with banking.
Right. And ultimately too many businesses, too many companies, even too many organizations were like, well, we need to go bend a knee over here. We need to go and do these radical things. And you're going, no, what you need to do is what you're supposed to be doing, right? As a banker, you have an obligation to those who bank with you. You have an obligation to those who invest with you. You have an obligation, a fiduciary duty, rather than the social duty that you're over here spending all this time, energy, and whatnot wasted on.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And this is something that I'm doing all the time with the Capital Markets Initiative at the Heritage Foundation. And we may not have time to get into all this today, so maybe we'll do this another day. But as you can imagine, we have over $100 million annual operating budget. So we're a big organization with lots of assets. We have a pretty vast portfolio. And so we're going through our portfolio and figuring out which companies we own substantial shares of and which companies are doing bad things. And we're filing shareholder resolutions. We're engaging with leadership. And what we're finding is that for the most part, most executives at the highest level companies are actually quite happy to hear from us. They're like, thank goodness, we've just been waiting for conservatives to ask us to stop, because all we do is we get this pressure from activist investors on the left, but the right's never done this. But now that you're engaging us, thank goodness, we'll stop. We'll stop right away. We'll stop using the Southern Poverty Law
Yep.
Center's diagnostic tools, including its hate map. We'll stop doing, DEI. We'll stop, whatever it is. There are all kinds of issues. And it's just interesting that the right has not done this until recently.
Oh yeah. Well, and we've seen that. I was really involved in the biased banking and trying to bring attention to the different companies being deplatformed by banks. That was happening a lot to people in the Second Amendment spaces, whether it was stores or manufacturers or whatever it was. There was a real social pressure put on by the left for them to stop banking this whole industry. And people didn't realize it was happening. And when they did, the pushback of going, wait, do what? 5 people gathered outside your headquarters, 10 people gathered outside your headquarters, and you stopped doing this thing they wanted you to stop doing just so they'd go away. Like, that's ridiculous. Let's bring back sanity in the marketplace.
Totally, 100%. And one interesting thing is I suspect we'll see debanking legislation this session in Alabama. So that's
Oh,
one
that's
thing
an
to keep an
interesting.
eye out for.
That's interesting. All right. Well, on that, back to your op-ed for today on the Bar Association accreditation. Have you talked to any sitting members of the state Supreme Court about this? Is this something you think there will be an appetite for?
I don't know how much of an appetite there will be. There might be after this op-ed. People might start talking to him. I have. There's one sitting Supreme Court justice, maybe two, but there's one I can recall having this conversation informally a few years ago. Whether this is sort of top priority or even on the court's radar right now, I really don't have an answer to that. But I would imagine they're paying attention after hearing what's happened in Texas and Florida. How could you not? Florida's our neighbor right down there to
Oh
the
yeah.
south, and so surely they're getting word, and surely when Tuberville gets in, he's going to be making some noise around this issue, and I can't wait to see how things change once we have a Governor Tuberville in office.
Oh, absolutely. We take for granted just because we're a red state, oh, well, we don't have to worry about some of the things that you see in other states. But at the same time, I will refrain from being overly critical while I have you on the line. But Governor Kay Ivey has not been the most conservative governor and followed the track of a DeSantis or other governors out there in leading the way on some of these issues. I think Tuberville will be that. I think Tuberville will come in and God willing, I'm knocking on wood over here. He'll be, rather than even a first term Trump, he'll be a second term Trump and bring in people that really do shake up Montgomery and do things that really does shake up Montgomery.
Well, I think so too. I think he's proven that in the Senate he is willing to be an independent voice and that he's willing to do things alone if necessary and that he is not beholden to the lobby corps. Too many of Alabama's politicians are just beholden to the lobby corps,
Oh, absurdly so.
and that's unfortunate.
It really is. Well, tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can find the research you're doing, find information about heritage, all those things.
Oh, sure. Yeah, my name is Allen, Allen, and then last name Mendenhall, Mendenhall. And if you put in allenmendenhall.com, you can find my website and links to my books, articles, and all kinds of stuff there.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to call in. I hope you enjoy your trip to Washington, D.C.
Thanks, April. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right. That was Alan Mendenhall, who's a fellow with the Heritage Foundation right now. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll get into some of this ice madness from over the last few days. You guys stay tuned. April Murray filling in for Andrew. If you wanted me to talk, Steve, you can't play one of my favorite songs, even if it is a remix.
Yeah, it's actually a cover. It's a group called Cobra and the Lotus.
People on the YouTube getting quite the show over here as I lip sync. I have a
Black
girl.
Velvet, in case you want to know.
I have a girlfriend who is she's an incredible singer. She's actually a real estate agent now. She used to work for at various U.S. embassies as an attaché of, and I forget which department it was, but she did a cover of this that I truly believe could have got her a record album. Had somebody in the crowd anywhere she sung it, I was like, oh, you just like sit there and just stare. Oh my gosh, I could listen to this song all day. Well, April Marie here, filling in for Andrew. We've got Dave on the line in Trussville. Hi, Dave. Good morning.
Hey, April Marie, how are you today?
I am doing quite well. How about yourself?
Well, good. I'm good. I'm not bad for an old guy. I was president of Patrons of Partlow from 2005 to 2012. Closed the thing. That was the family's benevolence group. I had access to the entire Partlow Hospital, which is the state of Alabama's facility. I had the chief secretary was my secretary, and it was a well-regulated hospital. They had 151 patients out there. Most all of them, the 123 were non-cognizant, could not talk. Most all of them had acting out problems. Some of them had serious acting out problems where they had to referee and keep them away from each other. Or some of the people that worked there. There were over 458 jobs there, but Tuscaloosa County lost 3,000 jobs because the state of Alabama decided they were going to close it down. What it was a center that evaluated the patients. We went from 1998. We went from 2,000 at the highest point per year to 2,000 at the highest point per month.
Wow.
Now, having access to the state, and what we didn't know at the time, they were going to close it no matter what. Every state in the union was going through the same thing. It was because of the vaccines. The children that were coming forward had severe autism to minor autism, and they were being evaluated. The reason, and we knew this finally, we caught on because I had that office had its own computer analysis office in it. We called the state or the University of Alabama Medical School. The doctors there talking among themselves on email, thinking we didn't know. I guess they thought we were a bunch of knuckle dragging idiots, and caught them talking about it. So we knew what they were doing. So they basically closed down. But what they were doing was taking the evaluation part and the expertise away from the hospital, which we had like Dr. Ruby Tyler, some of the greatest in the state that were there, and they were good, and giving it to the University of Alabama. And this was all orchestrated through the state of Alabama. But it was, and they had no community homes. They put all those patients in community homes. They had no community homes. It was a disaster. This is Robert Bentley, and Maul Ivy was the governor, was the lieutenant governor at the time. So she was in on the deal. They all knew what was happening, and it was amazing to watch the media. I mean, I did interviews with WAPI, you name it, all the TV affiliates across the state. And they'd ask me questions, and they'd record me for maybe 30 minutes. And then that night on the news, they'd ask me one question, and I had a yes or no answer, and that's it. You know how that goes.
Oh, yeah.
That was in the rest of the state. But in Tuscaloosa, it's a whole different story. They got a whole different picture of Partlow. It was one of the best institutions in the country. I had a war chest of $10,000 in the bank there in Alabama One. I turned it over to VOR of the national group in Washington, D.C. Went up there twice. This was in 2011, 2012. Found out that really they put a nice spread of food on because, after all, they're stealing all the money, so they got plenty of money for they could drag out the pig with the apple in its mouth, but they weren't going to do anything for us. And the same players that are in there now on the federal level are still there now. They all know what's going on, and it's a travesty because in 1986 they passed and this is the other thing. They in Washington D.C. they will not go back and review what they've done. The crap they won't. They're not like the cat that'll scratch his litter box. They just let it sit there and everybody can see it. But they accept them. In 1986 they passed legislation called the Virology Bill. Ronald Reagan, not being a doctor, he just put the rubber stamp to it and signed it into law. But that gave Fauci the exclusive rights to be the chief in charge of the FDA and CDC. And he did. And in 1989, he started putting aluminum, mercury in the children's vaccines.
Well,
And
it's
what
been interesting to see what the current HHS under RFK is doing in terms of vaccines and vaccine schedules and all of those things.
Yep,
Encouraging people to take a look at the schedule and even changing the schedule. Encouraging
yep,
people to to take part in their own. Here's a big thing that the American healthcare system is lacking and missing is, well, there are two things in my opinion. One is understanding overall health, right? There are certain things you should just know about processed foods
sure,
and
yeah,
the different things you eat. Moving, how many of us, and I talked about this, I want to say last week on the show, of what happened when I was like, me and it was Damien and I were discussing the lack of movement people have, the lack of being outside, the sitting on our butts for hours, 8 hours a day in front of a computer, and what this does to our health. I think we are really at a time where our nation is starting to shift to look around. How did we get where we are in terms of our health being bad and down? Look at the mental health
hmm
and the slippery slope there. How many individuals are spending all of their days scrolling? How terrible that is for your mental health. How many people are not going outdoors? We have some really easy solutions to some of these tough problems if people will just go out there and learn them. And I think that's a big
true.
deal in terms of what Trump is trying to do, what RFK is trying to do. People had really terrible, oh, I don't know what's going to happen with him, but truly he's working on getting America healthy in a way that is quite obvious. No magic pill needed. Get your butt up,
That's right.
move,
Yeah,
eat better,
no
and
doubt.
uh, and
Well,
and find out and figure out what you're putting into your body. Well, I appreciate the
right.
call, Dave. I think that we are
Yeah,
going to.
let me leave you with this. This time next year, if you can find RFK's donor speech when he was running for president, it's amazing. And this time next year, we're gonna find out what all he knows.
I,
And
I
it's probably 25% now. It's gonna be scary, really, because of what the government has done to us. Anyway, you have a blessed day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Great call there. We've got, I love it when people know about the history of things, right? You all have a knowledge based on what you have done career wise, life wise, what you have seen, what you know. It's not always nice when people share that. I actually just pulled up the Partlow Center and a little bit about that going on. We really did a ginormous disservice to, and I cannot say this enough. We did a ginormous disservice to our communities, to the loved ones, to the individuals who need severe and persistent mental health care services, to those with substance abuse and substance use disorders. We really did a disservice because now those individuals, instead of having community based care, so many of them are on our streets as homeless. They are in our prisons and jails because they're not receiving the treatment that they need, and they're surely not receiving them in these prisons or jails, or they're with their families, and these families are having to go through these constant highs and lows because we lack a network and access to care on these really important issues. And I do blame. There are times where I go, oh, the establishment, the part of the reason our nation is in the crisis that it is in. And I'm not talking about the necessarily the pink hair, green hair crazies who are a different kind of crazy who just need to go touch grass. I'm talking about real and legitimate mental health and substance abuse problems that we have. We have done a disservice by ceding those issues to the left and saying, well, that's their thing. We're going to talk over here about the economy and taxes and small government. We're going to let the left take over education and healthcare and all that stuff. Well, look where that got us. Where we are right now is because we, as the right, decided when we were divvying up the issues pie that these issues would be the Democrat soft, warm, and fuzzy issues. And it has gotten us to a point of crisis. We have a number of individuals, and I talk a lot about education because I think it's so very important. A lot of people who are in our education field who really should be getting some kind of care somewhere else. I was watching videos this weekend of teachers out there protesting at ICE in Minneapolis, and you're going, why is that person in a classroom? How did this happen? What is going on here? Really, we seeded that issue. We've got to take it back. We've got to figure out the responsible and fiscally responsible, the responsible to our communities and fiscally responsible way to get these community-based care centers back online because it is wreaking havoc. It is absolutely wreaking havoc on our communities that we don't have that backbench or that bench and of services that we need. All right, Daniel on Birmingham on the line. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, April. How are you?
Oh, we got about a minute. Sorry,
Your
Daniel.
previous caller. Oh, okay. I don't think a minute's going to be long enough, but I just had a few issues with the previous caller's statements about how he knew certain things, and especially talking about autism. So if I need to come back across the break, I will.
All right, we'll do that. We're gonna put you back on hold. Yeah, and I will say this that I have, and everybody knows it's not a secret. I've got 3 beautiful children. Every one of my children has had their vaccines. I have had my vaccines. I've done my research. I have looked at what's safe and not. I have determined to go ahead and do the vaccines. Now that said, I've got a number of friends who are doing delayed schedules or not on the same timeline. I even have a friend who's doing no shots, which that's their personal choice as parents. They've got the parental rights to do that. I have a very different take on vaccines than I know a lot of people do. And I have a very, very dear friend who's a pediatrician, and we have talked at length about the research and the studies and all the things. And I have come to the conclusion I was going to give my kids their vaccines. They have had them. They have not had a COVID vaccine. I will say that they never have, never will. All right, we're going to be back on the flip side. We'll take Daniel's call as we discuss vaccines. Back in a second.